our third lesson video and final lesson video for chapter 13 and 16. And so if you remember from lesson video 2, we started talking about sanitary landfills and how do we dispose of our solid waste, our trash. Alright, so there's certain things that pose a particularly obstacle to overcome when they go into a landfill, and number one is plastic. Besides, of course, things like that contain, poisonous substances like mercury, but just a normal substance that's a huge problem is plastic. So the amount of plastic in solid waste is growing. Packaging generates more than half of the plastic solid waste. So think about it. Oh my gosh, when my daughter gets like a new toy or something, like say it's a Barbie, oh my gosh, the plastic that goes into just packaging the Barbie. It's like there's the cardboard box, and then there's this plastic thing that the Barbie's in, and then there's all these little plastic ties that hold her hair in place and all the little accessories around her. And then there's these plastic bands that like go around her. I mean, it takes us like 20 minutes just to get the Barbie open. And what do we do with all the packaging? We throw it away. This picture here is showing somebody, they're just buying vegetables and they're packaged in plastic instead of just going and picking them up, like we do at Walmart or something like that. The problem with plastics is they're chemically stable, so they don't decompose well over time. Like if you throw a piece of paper in your backyard and cover it up with some dirt, and you throw a plastic bottle in your backyard and cover it up with dirt, in a couple of months that paper is going to be disintegrating. It's going to be decomposing. Hundreds of years later, that plastic bottle is still going to be there. So that's the problem. So what are some alternatives? Well, we have plastics that are photodegradable. That means that they will break down when exposed to light, but the problem is if you listened in lesson video 2 about sanitary landfills, what do? We compact it and bury it. Once you bury it, it can't photodegrade. The other idea is to use biodegradable plastics, and those have been becoming a little bit more popular. And so biodegradable means that it can be degraded through biological processes, like being decomposed by microorganisms that exist in the soil. So again, these are some alternatives to normal plastic that just sticks around for long periods of time. So, another thing that we discussed is one of the options, instead of taking it to a dump or a sanitary landfill, is to incinerate it, which just means burn it. So what are some benefits? Because we know there's problems. There's problems to everything, I tell you, right? The benefits are, of course, like we said, the volume of the solid waste is reduced by 90%, so it takes up a lot less space. So that keeps those landfills from filling up. You can use the heat that it's produced from the burning to warm buildings or generate electricity. Remember, we can always generate electricity if we can spin a turbine. Anytime you have heat rises, and so it flows upward when you're burning something. And so that upward motion of the heat can spin turbines and produce electricity. So what are the problems? Well, obviously, you probably already guessed the first problem. When you burn something, there's a lot of air pollution. You have particulate matter, you have heavy metals, and the worst part is, because you're just burning random trash, you have so many more chemicals than if you're just burning wood. Because you're just burning everything. Somebody could have thrown lead paint in there. You just never know what's in your trash. There's a production of large quantities of ash, which requires proper disposal in hazardous waste facilities, because again, when you're burning trash, you have so many chemicals present. And then it's expensive to run due to the costly pollution control devices. So whereas you might think burning trash would be a really cheap alternative, they have to have all kinds of pollution control in place to keep all of these toxic chemicals from just being released into our atmosphere. So again, it's positive because it reduces the volume, but it's kind of expensive, and it has a lot of cleanup involved on the pollution side. So composting, that's an option. Yard waste is a substantial portion of municipal solid waste. A lot of people, when they cut their bushes or cut limbs off of trees or rake up leaves, they put it out by the side of the road for the dump to pick up. And so that contributes a lot to all of that volume that landfills are having. So the best recovery method is to convert it into soil conditioners to provide nutrients for the soil in the form of mulch and compost. So when you cut up, like if you have a mulcher, I wish we did, instead of having to burn all this stuff, but you can put large tree branches in there and it'll cut it up into little mulch pieces for you. Or if you let food or things like that decompose over time, they create what's called compost, which is really fertile material for plants and things like that. So what are the goals for us to control our solid waste, our municipal waste? Well, you've heard it before, I'm sure, since you were in like elementary school. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. So we need to reduce the amount of waste that we're using. So if you go to Walmart and you see some potatoes packaged in a plastic bag, or some potatoes that are just sitting out and you can just grab them, try to select the items that don't have as much waste along with them. So purchase products that have less packaging, last longer, or are repairable, and decrease consumption. Okay, like there's been tons of times where I went and bought some chicken and it's wrapped in the plastic, and then I just forget about it in the refrigerator. Forget to cook it, we just had something else instead. And then, chicken's only so good in the refrigerator for so long. Then a few days later I go and think, oh my gosh, I didn't even make that chicken. And so now I'm wasting the chicken and I'm wasting the plastic that it was in. Whereas if I just decreased the consumption and bought what I needed instead of what I wanted, then I wouldn't have had to throw that away. Reuse products as much as possible. Reusable water bottles, or like Hydro Flasks and stuff like that, have become real popular recently instead of drinking out of the plastic bottles that you then throw away. And then recycle materials as much as possible. Aluminum cans and plastic bottles, they can be recycled at school. And then lots of places have recycling. Your trash pickup might actually have a recycling option if you check with them. So, trying to reduce or use less, products are designed and manufactured in ways that decrease the amount of solid and hazardous waste they produce. So again, if you can use less, that means you'll dispose of less. Reusing products, for example, refillable glass beverage bottles, which get reused by bottlers. A long time ago, you didn't go to a Coke machine and get a plastic bottle full of Coke. You got a glass bottle, and then you would literally go turn the glass bottle in, and they even, I think, gave you money. I did not live in the times that we still did this, just letting you know, I'm not that old. I've heard that like people would go like to the beach and stuff and collect like the glass Coke bottles that people had left in the trash or just left on the beach, and they would give you like a nickel for each bottle or something like that, and so people would find bottles and get enough money to go buy like a little snack or something. So that was when they would reuse and refill those bottles instead of just throwing them away every single time. Of course, we don't really do that anymore. All of our bottles are plastic, and nobody's going to give you any money pretty much if you go collect a bunch of plastic bottles and are like, here. But still, I always thought that was kind of neat. Like, I wish that I could have, made some money as a kid doing stuff like that. So, many materials can be collected and processed into new products. It generates jobs and revenues from the recycling process, but the problem is for recycling to work, there must be a market for it. If something is going to be sold as a recycled product, people would want to have to buy it. So for example, like if I wanted to say, hey, I made this recycled toilet paper. It was toilet paper that people used, and then we created new toilet paper out of it. Not many people are going to want to buy recycled toilet paper. That just sounds gross. I don't feel like they could make it sanitary where I would ever want to use that. But if you can find a market for it, which nowadays a lot of people are more environmentally conscious, so they are more willing to pay for a recycled product. The U.S. currently recycles about 34% of its municipal solid waste. So we're doing a good amount, but we could do more. So what are some of the things that we're recycling? Well, we recycle paper. The U.S. currently recycles 72% of its paper and paperboard. So around school, a lot of the teachers have boxes in their rooms for recycling paper. By the way, it's for paper, not trash. That's why I don't have a box in my room, because at my old school, everybody would just put trash in there. Recycling glass. 33% of glass waste is recycled in the U.S. Recycled glass actually costs less than making glass new for the first time. But the only thing is you got to make sure you separate the colors. So if you've ever been to a recycling center, a lot of times they have big, huge bins, and like it might say brown glass, green glass, clear glass, because you have to separate the colors of glass because they want to keep the colors. Like if a company wants to make clear glass jars, if you accidentally have some brown or green mixed in there, it's not going to be clear when they recycle it. Recycling metals. Aluminum, like in aluminum cans, like Coke cans, that's the best success in U.S. recycling. So 49% of aluminum beverage cans are recycled. It requires less energy to recycle aluminum than to make an aluminum can for the first time, so that's a positive. And then other recyclable metals include lead, gold, iron, steel, silver, and zinc. So there's lots of metals that we can recycle also. So recycling plastic, remember we said it's hard for it to break down over time. 13% of plastic containers and packaging in the U.S. are recycled. 37% of recycled soft drink bottles are used to make carpet, auto parts, tennis ball felt, and polyester cloth. So just because you recycle a Coke bottle, it doesn't mean they're going to make another Coke bottle out of it. Like they can make lots of different things from your recycled plastic. Recycling tires. Tires are very large. They take up a lot of volume. We all need them. They wear out quickly. We have to replace them. When you burn them, they produce a lot of pollution. So recycling them is our best method. So they're used for retread tires, playground equipment, trash cans, garden hoses, rubberized asphalt for pavement, like our track at school. That rubberized surface, like if you run track or play football or play in the band or anything that would have ever walked around the track or across it before, you felt that little bit of rubber on the surface, that's from old tires. It can be burned to use for energy. You know, that heat can turn turbines, but the problem is, of course, all of that pollution. So you would need a lot in place to collect that pollution to keep it from going into our atmosphere. So, last thing that we're going to talk about, and then we're done with chapter 13 and 16, is high-tech waste. Imagine that. Computers, cameras, cell phones, laptops, tablets, you know, whatever else you have that's high-tech, projectors, TVs, radios, CD players, anything like that, DVD players, your PlayStation 3, because now they came out with a PlayStation 4. High-tech waste. Average computers are replaced every 18 to 24 months. I obviously don't live in an average family because I can't afford to buy a new computer that often. We literally use ours till it can't be used anymore. A lot of people, they get a new one not because their old one's broken. A better one was just made. That's why I brought up the PlayStation. You had a PlayStation 3, well then a PlayStation 4 came out. So it's like, what am I doing with this old junk? All I have is a PlayStation 3. So you get rid of that just to get the 4. Same thing happens with y'all and your iPhones and stuff. Okay, y'all know I don't have a smartphone. So I don't know what I'm talking about, but like, I don't even know what number they're on at this point. But it's like you have like the iPhone 10, and then the iPhone 11 comes out, and you act like your iPhone 10 can't do anything all of a sudden. Y'all know that iPhone 10's fine. You pay like $1,000 for it. Or I mean, your parents did when they're paying your cell phone bill every month. But anyway, but you get the new one because it's out there and it's new. Old computers, they still tend to work, but they have no resale value. Same thing with cell phones. If you have the iPhone 4, you can put it online and sell it for what, like $10? Like nobody wants to buy it, even though it might still work just fine. And so they're frequently thrown away with regular household garbage because people don't know what else to do with them. A large percentage of electronic devices go to landfills. About 40% of all electronics are e-cycled. That just means they're recycled, but electronically, like they're reused. But only about 10% of mobile devices, like cell phones, are e-cycled. So in other words, we're doing a better job of recycling like computers and things like that. But mobile devices like cell phones, they're just being dumped and nobody cares. Many are shipped overseas for recycling and recovery of useful materials, but often they have hazardous working conditions associated with them. So they have these little, I've seen them, I think they have one at our Walmart where it's like this cell phone recycling bin thing. It's like next to the red box movie thing and like the snack machines when you walk in, or the drink machines when you walk in. And you can turn in your old cell phone in there for it to be recycled. So just consider thinking a little bit, especially since you're at home for, you know, the next long time. Think about ways that you can recycle, you can reduce, and you can reuse. Okay, because we all need to take part in reducing our waste to help our planet in the long run.